I'm Amy DeVroon and welcome to Year of the Selfie podcast. 2020 has been a mad year thus far, a year where we've really had to take a look at ourselves. As a self-help nut, this hasn't been hugely out of the ordinary for me, but what has been so unusual is watching an entire creative industry grind to a halt in front of my very eyes. The link between creativity and mental health has always fascinated me, so I wanted to go deeper. In a world where we so often equate success with fame, it can be easy to forget the reason behind it all. Creativity. This unique, inexplicable gift. The thing we do where we lose all sense of time. The thing that lifts our hearts even in the darkest of moments. The thing that many of us feel we were put on this earth to do. So every week I'm going to talk to my guests about just that. Their creativity. Their highs and lows, and where they find their creativity when it feels like there's nowhere to put it. On today's podcast, we have none other than Irish writer and broadcaster Keith Walsh. This was a special chat. He is some man for one man, and he's been on quite an incredible journey. So get comfy, guys, and enjoy. Okay, so Keith Walsh, welcome to Year of the Selfie podcast.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much for asking me, Amy. You're very kind, and I was delighted to say yes. I'm just happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah, it's one of those times in life when I'm the same. I'm like, well, I do, yeah.
Yeah. Good to talk. Good to talk to anybody.
Yeah, it's anybody. No, because I've been watching I'd worked with your two pals, Jennifer and Bernard, when I did Bridget and Eamon, so I knew of you at a distance, and then I've been watching you on the social media and been watching kind of all the stuff that was coming out about men and mental health that you were commenting on, and I just thought it was so interesting. And also considering I actually was also watching you with a bit of fascination as well, with the kind of huge life changes that were happening as well in your life and work changes. And I just thought it was so interesting. I really wanted to talk to you. And be nosy.
Better not disappoint.
Yeah.
Instagram life versus reality, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But so I didn't realize this when I was chatting to you about coming on the podcast, but you've literally just left your 2FM radio show.
Yeah. So I've knocked it on the head, and yeah, I just think, look, I'm not getting any younger. 2FM is a young person's radio station, and I it was only going to go one way anyway. So it was nice to be sort of able to make the decision, and I had been talking to them, and I could have dragged it out for a little bit longer, but I think it's best for me. I suppose there's a bit of a safety net, and although my wife wouldn't be terribly happy about it, I decided to maybe get rid of the safety net and see what happens, you know. And
can I ask as well, how that came about? Because I saw you said it was a leap of faith, and to take a leap of faith like that, I think after 7 years is quite huge. Was it like a chain of events from kind of leaving the breakfast show and all that kind of stuff that just kind of led to that you feel in a place now? Do you feel now in a place capable to just, well, you are doing it anyway, or are you really just jumping and being like, shit?
A bit of both. It's half and half. I'm not 100% sure what the future holds. The thing about it was, I suppose, it was literally a safety net. I didn't really get into doing radio to be a jock, to be a music presenter, right? Yeah. And a weekend show is basically you do 2 hours of music and you back announce the songs and you give shout outs and that kind of stuff, which is totally different to doing a breakfast show with two other people where you come up with characters, comedy bits, talk about the news. It's just a whole different beast. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I was very grateful for 2FM when the breakfast show finished up for giving me that to do, you know? Mm-hmm. And it kind of, in a lot of ways, it kept me going and kept me focused through a kind of a tumultuous year and a half. But I think ultimately, and it was in the back of my head, this isn't really for me, and this is not where I want to be, and it's not what I want to be doing. And I think, that would be okay with 2FM. And so it was mutually beneficial. And also, but I was very grateful that I had it for the year and a half. I don't want to sort of say, I don't want to be, it would, how do I describe what I'm trying to say? It was just a good thing to do, but it just wasn't for me. I'm not a jock. I'm not a,
Yeah.
There's plenty of people out there, and young people as well, who can do that and do a great job. It's just not for me. So yeah, I have a few things to do in the next few months. So it's a good time to say, right, thanks 2FM. Thanks so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah. What is the reference about the fish? Should I know that? Is that a thing?
It's just that it's the last line of the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where
Okay.
where it's I've just always wanted to use it in something. It's where the dolphins are the superior being to the humans, and they're heading off. So they say to the humans, so long and thanks for all the fish.
Oh, got it. Okay. That's nice, because I was a bit, I did, that went well over my head, unfortunately.
And even me explaining that to you, I'm pretty sure that's it. It's been a long time since I read it. It's just something I've always used, that line, so long and thanks for all the fish.
That's brilliant. And in because the breakfast show was so different, just thinking about it there, was it, I mean, so because I've been researching you now, you kind of did a bit of drama in college, did you? And it was was the breakfast show something that just basically brought everything together, that you could do all your little, your little bits of stuff that that makes your heart sing, I guess, the kind of fun stuff, and or is there an element of you were on a treadmill and you just have to keep running that treadmill?
There's a bit of both. It does tick a box, definitely. And the way I got into radio was, after college, myself and a pal of mine were doing comedy characters as a way of getting into what we thought might be script writing or TV, making TV comedy. We were big fans of comedy shows that you wouldn't remember, like The Fast Show and...
I do remember. Okay. I love The Fast Show. Yeah.
All right. So stuff like that was inspiring us at the time. And we were spending a lot of time together, sitting around in flats, smoking and watching The Fast Show. And so that was kind of what we wanted to do. We had some characters, and that's kind of how I got into radio, by creating comedy characters. And it developed over 17, 18, 20 years, whatever, into being a presenter, mostly a presenter with elements of comedy sketches,
Yeah. And then kind of coming back around to it. So when you finished the radio show and that, the breakfast show, and I know then you've been working on a one-man show. You've done a preview for it, but the full one is yet to be revealed, is it? Yeah,
so we did during lockdown. Before lockdown, I started writing a one-man show. I didn't really know what I was writing before that. I had started when the breakfast show finished. I'd started therapy, which led me into writing, and then I started writing stories, and I realized I liked writing. I'd forgotten about it for a long time. I'm writing not a quick script for radio, but writing longer form. And I sent some of the stuff I'd written to Janet Moran, who I'd gone to college with. And I said, Janet, what do you think of this stuff? And she said, well, do you want to meet and let's have a chat? And we met. And she said, I think there's a play in this. Because I thought maybe in my head, I was thinking, well, it'd be nice if I could go on stage and read some of my stories that I've written, kind of about my life and about whatever. And she said, well, I think you can pull it together and it could be a show. It could be a one-man show, a play. And I was like, really? Do you think so? So anyway, with Janet's encouragement, and I wrote a play, and Janet helped a lot with the writing, and she directed me in a work in progress that we did, which was a half-hour long version of the play that went out online during lockdown. And it was for me, it was a big deal, because after doing drama in college, I kind of just dropped it almost straight away, kind of, in a way. I went for a few auditions, didn't get the part. And then straight away I was like, oh, it's obviously not for me, because I didn't get the part after 3 or 4 auditions. Nobody remembered to tell me that you need to go for hundreds of auditions.
Yeah. You just keep going.
Maybe I wasn't built for it at the time. And looking back, I probably wasn't the person to be doing that at that particular time. And I probably didn't have enough life experience and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, how do I I need to make a living. I can't, I had a girlfriend and we wanted to buy a house or whatever. It was just, anyway, I just wasn't in the right headspace. So it was nice to come back to it and to finally do a play and finally do something and finally write something and perform it. It was great.
And were you able to trust the process? So I wrote the first one woman show I ever wrote. I'd never really written before. And I found, but not everyone's like this, I found I really was able to trust the process because I had no idea. I was just like, fuck it, I'll try and see what happens and just keep going. Were you a bit like that? Like with this, were you able to really fully trust it and lend yourself over to it? Or were you freaking out?
A bit of both, but I had Janet and I really trusted her.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, literally whatever Janet suggested, I just said yes. So for her, working on my script must have been very easy. I don't know what, because she'd say, I think you just need to, this bit isn't important. I'm like, okay. Yeah. This line doesn't, that's, you're just being totally self-absorbed here. That just, okay. So I was learning and I was willing to learn. I really wanted, and I really trusted Janet and I knew she wouldn't do me wrong. So I trusted that. And I found the process fascinating and I'm still fascinated by it, kind of looking back on it and looking at what we have to do in the future, because I'm just fascinated by that process of we've manifested something from nothing. It's just words on paper, and then it's a thing, and then it's a show, and then there's a set, and then there's people watching it, and now it's going to be a thing, and you're just like, oh, wow, that I'm fascinated that I manifested that, and that to me is that has given me a whole new view of the world, which might seem real thick of me or whatever, but I'm my eyes have been opened in a lot of ways,
No, I think it does open your eyes, because I think you're able to. It's I want to say healing, and that's a really wanky word.
No, you should say healing.
Yeah,
I've been trying to say. I've been trying to explain things to people and trying to avoid certain words like healing and the universe and creativity and the gods and I keep almost trying to apologize for it.
Yeah,
and I have to stop myself apologizing for it, because it is healing.
Yeah, and it kind of gets you. And did you feel like, actually, if it being healing, did you feel like you could transform? Was it based on your life? Were you able to transform things? Because that's what they say is when you can transform something into art, that's when you've a distance from it, and that's why it's healing, because you've kind of created a distance between yourself and the experience through your art. Yeah,
totally. It was healing. Yeah. And it was therapy, and it's therapy for me. It's helpful to me that it now has become a thing that people might come and watch as well. But just there was one particular incident that I needed to sort of put down on paper or deal with or put somewhere, and I did, and it was very cathartic, very helpful, and genuinely, not to use the word journey, but it was a therapeutic journey of just discovery and I see things differently now. I feel differently about things. I feel maybe it freed me up. I don't know. I was definitely blocked, and I was definitely struggling to express myself and connect with emotions and all that kind of stuff. And I'm still working on stuff like that. But it was a huge amount of work that I managed to go through just doing that.
So do you think that the work that you did on your mental health helped to crack open the creative side of you, or at least let yourself even look at that side of yourself? Yeah,
both kind of happened simultaneously. So it was the therapy. I went to a guy called Luke, who I was very lucky that some people just will go to a counselor or therapist and it won't suit them. I found this guy and he was recommended and got on with him straight away. And we just got to work kind of straight away. And he suggested writing, and I was journaling every morning. And then I started a writing course. And so just writing stories down and getting stuff out of my head. And we all have these stories about ourselves and ghosts that ghost stories of, we're haunted by them almost, these characters and these people. And I started just getting them down on the page and getting them out of my head. And that just kind of freed things up. So it allowed me then to kind of then I suppose I allowed myself then to show Janet, you know, and she was positive. Her reaction was positive, and then we took the next step, and it was all. It's like what I've become fascinated with, and what I keep talking to people about is the process, and everything's a process, and nothing's ever an end point anymore. You know, where you used to kind of, well, if I get to here, everything will be great, or if I get to here and if I show this person my play and they say no, that's the end of me ever writing again because I'll never recover from it. Yeah. You show it to that person, they don't like it, but someone else might like it, or there might be something wrong with it. So you go back and you rework it and you find another way. And I suppose maybe I'd spent a lot of time feeling like if I got to a door and it wouldn't open, that I just wouldn't try any other doors, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated now by the process of things and how something can be a little idea and become a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and then maybe fall away. But you have other ideas and they might be doing things, or, you know, so it's just, you're constantly trying different things and just discovering what you could do, or what might be worth trying, or what might be fun, or, you know, so it's just, I feel like it's freed me up, and that's, with creativity, that's what you need, you know, you need a sense of freedom to try things.
And so would you, so you sound like then, you would deal with rejection then differently than you would have. Well, yeah. So if you're coming from a place where when you went for 3 auditions, you were like, oh, no, it mustn't be for me, then to now where you're like, if someone doesn't like a script, then you'll just hand it to somebody else. Yeah. Are you real centered in that at the moment? It's a good space to be, like.
I am, but also I realized that what I was doing was not putting the work into something, so that the other person probably had no choice but to turn me down, because I hadn't really turned up ready and prepared. And I suppose that's a mechanism, that's a thing that people do if they ultimately don't believe. I don't know, I don't want to say that I didn't believe I didn't deserve it, but there was some sort of something going on there where I really wasn't putting in the work to give myself a fair chance of succeeding in whatever I was trying to do. So I understand that now, as in, I always understood it, but now I'm a bit more honest with myself, where if I want to do something, I've got to put the work in, and it is a process, and it does take time, and it is work, but it will be worth it, you know. So there's lots of things going on. It's not that I'm better at rejection, it's that I'm okay with rejection, but I'm also better at realizing that the work has to go in, and you need to turn up and be better as well, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like a self-sabotage thing, because I know particularly artists actually who've done that in the past have been in a really low depressed place and will miss the alarm for an audition or a big meeting, and it's almost like they've done it to fuck with themselves.
Yeah.
It's like they don't feel like they deserve it or whatever.
Yeah, people do it all the time, and it's like, you know, you've got something big coming up and you go drinking for 2 days or something.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't know, and you're like, why did I do that? Why am I so hungover today? What's, you know, this is ridiculous. And we do it all the time. We do it to ourselves. And I was particularly bad at putting the work in to make sure something was really good, because I thought, well, if I didn't put the work in and people didn't really like it, or wasn't really, I could always say, well, I didn't really try that hard in the first place, so I don't mind if you don't really like it, you know. It's a fucked up thing.
I've actually started doing that with a lot of funding things, because I find it very, like, particularly for writing stuff, I would find it hard to get funding. And I noticed myself recently with one thing that I applied for, when someone asked me about it, rather than be like, oh, it's a really exciting idea I've been tinkering away at for ages, I just minimized it into like, yeah, well, like, I think it's something, it's a scheme that would suit me, and like, whatever, like, I don't need it, like, because I've other work lined up, so it's no big deal, like, I don't really care. And I was like, oh, well, that's just an instant rejection right there. I'm not going to get that. Like,
it is, but it just saves you from whatever it is you're worried about, because you can always say, I didn't really put any effort into it. So
yeah, I didn't really care.
Like we play such crazy games with ourselves all the time, you know.
It's ridiculous. But in terms of I was just thinking about the the mental health thing that kind of came up around the time that the breakfast show ended and you were posting about. And I've been finding the men and mental health thing interesting in 2 ways. One way is I find it very interesting at the moment because it's a big buzz subject. It's a big buzzword. I feel like, you know, in one way, it's something people are trying to kind of highlight. In another way, I don't think every fella is ready to get talking. because I've even noticed about even on the podcast, I would find sometimes the men are less keen to come on than the women, because it's just a natural, like, a talking thing. And then I was just also thinking about what you were saying there about when you were in college and you were going, well, I've got like a girlfriend, I want to buy a house and all these things, and how that kind of relates back to all our own fathers, because I feel like I'm in my 30s. You're in your 40s? Is that okay? You're in your 40s?
Yeah.
So my brothers-in-law, say, are in their 40s. And so the particular difference between them and my father's or their father's generation was so different, like so huge. And do you think that's something that's really really hung on kind of your age group and your kind of even your experience or your friends' experiences? Or it's a very long question, sorry, but I'm just kind of fascinated by that whole.
I think that, yeah, like there's a couple of things, like it is a kind of it is a cool thing kind of to be talking about in one way, to be talking about men's mental health, and there's some great people out there talking about it, and like we need more, we don't need it to be a thing, we just need to be more honest, we just need to be more open. It shouldn't be a thing at all. Men just need to be more honest about stuff, and we've a long way to go to unpacking the reasons we are the way we are, and a lot of that comes down to the expectation of society or men on other men or whatever, and the breadwinner, and keep everything together and don't fuck it up. And I'm just being very general here in a way, but so my father and then his father before him, it would have been about the job and getting to work and bringing in the money, and that would have been like, you're kind of, you're put in a box really, and that's all you feel good for. And it happened then when men lost their job and when the money wasn't coming in, that there was a sense that, well, who am I? Because I've worked for 20 years to put food on the table and to provide for my family, and now the factory's closing down, and now I don't have a job, and I haven't really talked to anybody about anything else really. So, and it's 20 years since I really was in touch with who I am and my dreams and my ambitions and all that kind of stuff. So where the fuck am I, and who am I, and what do I mean to this person, my wife? What do I mean to my children? It's midlife crisis is a term used where people get to that point where they're like, my children have kind of grown up, I've provided. Some men at that point, they can end up in, I remember my father in the 80s ended up on the picket line, not bringing the money in, and we just didn't know how to express ourselves or how to be or where to be or what to be doing, or you feel like a failure, and that's your job, your career is who you are, and like it's all tied up in that. And we weren't expected to talk, and we weren't asked really to talk about stuff by other men, or not really necessarily by wives back in those days either, because I don't, it's, as I'm saying it, I'm like, I don't really know what happened. Like I also feel like there's still a lot of men who say, will you shut up fucking talking about mental health and blah, 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 because that's not helpful. Digging up the past and looking at what happened to you when you were a child is not helpful. How's that going to help? And I got in touch with a friend of mine who I felt might be struggling, and I just gave him a shout, and COVID had happened and he was in lockdown, he was working from home, and his mom wasn't well and his sister wasn't well, and I just said, how are you doing? And he was like, geez, I can't I can't help I can't go anywhere, can't help anybody, I'm of no use to anybody. And I said, well, would you consider talking to somebody? And I suggested a name, and he said, what the fuck's he going to do, get rid of COVID? Yeah. And I tried to have to explain to him, no, he's not going to get rid of COVID. He's not going to make your mom better. He's not going to make your sister better, but he's going to make you better. As in, he's going to make you better able to deal with what's going on, so that you can feel a bit better about whatever you're feeling. And then you're probably more useful to your mom and to your sister and to your wife and to whatever you need to do. And that's the most important thing at the moment, is that you feel better, And it's getting that across to men, that it's okay to say, I just need to feel better, and then I'll be better to everybody around me, because there's too much, like anger is too easy to access, there's too many angry men, there's too much frustration, there's not enough honesty, there's not enough honesty, I suppose is the word, and vulnerability. We're not being vulnerable. We're not able to say, Jesus, this is fucking hard. I can't, I'm struggling here. I need a time out. So we're not good at those things, and we need to get better. And I feel, and I know some men would look at what I'm doing or talking about what I'm talking about publicly as, attention seeking or whatever it is, or maybe I'm using my own personal stories as some kind of career move, or, and I just think that's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. I don't know necessarily why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not necessarily choosing any certain path. Things just kind of happen, and then that happened and that happened. It seems to be a good thing. People seem to be benefiting from it. I'm just going to keep going, and I'm not going to question it, and I'm going to just be honest. And I'm going to turn up here today and be as honest with you as I can. I'm going to turn up and do my play and be as honest as I can. And if people want to talk to me, I just want to just say that it's, I want men to feel like it's okay to be honest. And that's, and me being vulnerable, I think will help other men,
Yeah, definitely. Because even when I did the first episode of the podcast with my husband, Sean, the amount of messages that we got about how open and vulnerable he was, and how, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. I wouldn't be able to do that, and all this kind of stuff. And we were sort of, and I think it's because for us, there's been a good few years of talking about mental health, and he's been on this journey for a while, and by his nature, he's quite open anyway. He's okay to talk about these things. But he even freaked out at one point and was like, oh God, my career now, I'll have no career because now I've let everybody know. And I was trying to say, like, I think that makes you more appealing to people. Like, I want to know people I can have an honest conversation with. I'm not interested in looking at somebody who's reading a script, going, this is great, so I think it's I think it's an amazing thing. I think it can only help people. Yeah,
and I think it was great to listen to that particular podcast because, I was able to identify what a lot of what he was saying, because he sort of described being sidelined from his main sort of dream in a way. And it was a very sensible thing he did, because he found a way of, making money and enough money to do whatever he had to do and provide for his family and get a house and do the things that society needs you to do. And that we feel, I would have felt a very similar thing where you're kind of sidelined from what you actually want to do, and you're almost like a shadow creative in a way. I mean, he wasn't, he wasn't a creative because he was being very creative. But you're almost doing it in a way that it's not being true to yourself, or you're sort of, I've been reading about these people, shadow creatives, who work in radio when they'd actually rather, they're meeting actors when they actually would rather be performing, or, it's great to be in the industry, but it can be frustrating as well when you're not doing the thing in that industry that you'd like to be doing. Yeah. And I thought that his honesty around that and his struggle with that, he was clearly successful and brilliant at what he did. Yeah, but it was still wasn't the thing,
Yeah, it's hard. I've noticed that with a few people that I've spoken to, and they do another thing as well, and it's equally creative. And often I'll say to them, "Is that your favorite now? Is that the favorite thing of the two?" And they always say the original thing that they got into it for, the original reason, whether it was acting or, I don't know, writing or whatever. That's always kind of the thing that's their favorite, and they want to be able to get back to. So it's strange that that society, well, it's not strange, it is society, that it has these things on you that you have to earn a certain amount of money, you have to be successful, you have to look like you're successful, to
but the other thing that I've learned is that I've started using the phrase side hustles, so I just don't want to be, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and if you can do a couple of different creative things, or you can be creative in whatever way, and just have a few little things on the go, so you're not totally focused on one thing working, and if that doesn't work and you're devastated, you almost need to be a little bit more agile and a little bit flexible. And as I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, So it's freeing yourself up creatively, but it's also trying to use your head and your intelligence to figure out a way that you can be creative and bring in the money to pay the bills at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you can't really. I can't say to my wife, look, I'm going to live down the shed in the garden, and that's where I'm going to live now, and I'm going to draw.
I'm just going to focus on that.
And will you sell any of these drawings? No, this is just for me.
No.
I'm just going to be creative for the rest of my life, and I'll come up for my dinner. You know, so you have to be. It has to be realistic.
Yeah.
And also, there was the thing that I used to say was, and I've read it in books or whatever, that you can't. You know, well, how can I do this when I've got this to do, and this is. You know, it's like, well, I can't do that because then I have to give up my job to do that. Where you go, no, you can keep doing your job, and try and do that at night, or try and sneak an hour away for yourself, where you can write for an hour, or get up a bit earlier in the morning, or and I'm saying that from a place of going to therapy for a year and a bit. Like, I'm not saying this to anybody to feel bad about themselves, because there's lots of people that would like to do it and just don't have the energy to get up early in the morning, and it's not always possible. And I see that, and I don't want to be bashing anyone over the head with the things they're not doing. Yeah. But this was the process for me, where eventually I got to a point where I'll just do this for an hour, and then I'll leave it, and I'll get back and do another hour some other time. And sometimes I don't feel like it, and and then that's okay as well, So it's the whole idea of the process, and it takes time, and you can chip away at it, and it doesn't have to be an overnight thing, and you don't have to walk away from a relationship, you don't have to walk away from a job. You might prefer to be living in a different house, but just stay in this house for now until you get to where you need to be. All those things. Yeah. Just letting yourself off the hook as well, Yeah. And allowing yourself to be stuck in where you need to be, but then maybe find a little bit of wriggle room for yourself,
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of amazing that you can get the time, you can find the time. And also you're right about what you're saying about not feeling bad about it, because so many people I know weren't able to do anything when we were in lockdown, creative. And there was this pressure. I said it, I think, in another podcast. I heard Chris O'Dowd say it on a podcast, where he said there was a point in lockdown where everyone just had creative diarrhea, and they were just like, look at me, notice me. And that really stuck with me, because I just thought, it was like everyone was under such pressure to be like, this is something I'm doing, look at me. You were just throwing out shite. And actually, it's nice to be to have the freedom. And we do have the freedom at the moment, because there's little else to be doing, really, in the same way. To just be ticking away at something, and it doesn't have to be this big finished project straight away. And it might lead on to a different kind of thing, eventually. It was kind of I allowed myself to do things without expectation. Yes. And that just freed me up completely, because I'm just doing this thing. It's not for anything. It's not for anyone. It's not. And then I'm doing this other thing, and and then I'm doing the three things at the same time, and without expectation. And that allowed me to get to where I was able to just be creative for the sake of it. And that was a thing I heard from somebody: just do things without expectation, that would free you up. And it really worked for me, Was there a point? Yeah. Was there a point that did something reach a head, or a turning point, where you were like, I'm just gonna. Because that's a nice little switch in your head. Did that come from kind of a lot of work on yourself? I know you haven't been doing work on yourself, but I was ready to hear that. Obviously, do you know what I mean? If somebody told me like lots of, I suppose, serendipitous things happened in that. Like, I was utterly devastated when the breakfast show finished up, and felt complete. As I mentioned, I'm not great with rejection, so. That wasn't good for me, but it led me to therapy, and it was possibly the best thing that could have happened to me in a lot of ways, because it led me to therapy. It led me to really think about what I actually wanted to do. It gave me time to think. It gave me time to reevaluate. It gave me, and sometimes you can have a very successful thing going, and that it can be very hard to give that up, because why would you give that up? That'd be stupid, And I didn't at that time. With doing the breakfast show, I didn't have the energy to explore anything else. So it was taking my all to just do the breakfast show. And that took its toll on me and family life in different ways.
but that finishing up was probably the worst thing and the best thing that happened to me. So, you know, I'm saying this is just my story and my experience and what I did, and other people aren't ready to either listen to me or hear that or say that to themselves, and that's happening. You know, hopefully they'll get their turn. But absolutely, when I heard "do things without expectations," I was ready to hear that. You know? You know, if someone said that to me a year and a half ago, I was like, "Shut the fuck up! What are you talking about? That's gobbledygook." You know, that doesn't mean anything. You know, it's weird that words and sentences can just mean a completely
nothing at one point,
and then everything.
Yeah.
And then everything, you know, and even as you mentioned, like, you know, spiritual and even me talking about being creative, these are things that I wouldn't have said about a year and a half ago.
So when you were in the breakfast show and do you feel when you look back on those years doing that, do you feel like you're looking at a different person? I know the basis of you is the same, but has there been such a vast shift in yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Like I do. I feel like I'm more honest. I'm more honest with myself. I feel better. I feel more content. I was trying to describe, like somebody asked me, was I happier since I started, whatever. And I said, well, I don't think happiness is the word, but content is a great word, and the word that I would say a lot. I feel content. I'm not racing for anything. You know, I'm not. Sometimes you're so hell bent on getting somewhere with something that you're just in your own way. And it just isn't helpful to anybody, least of all yourself. So I was a different person. I had a lot of shit to deal with that I managed to deal with. My wife actually said to me a few months ago, like, you used to never fucking talk, and now you won't shut the fuck up. And she said, I don't know which I prefer. And she kind of at one point said, it's like I've gotten a divorce, this is a new man, and she still hasn't decided which, but it was a divorce without the legal fees, so lots of things have changed and continue to change, and we're like, even like there's such seismic shifts going on that, like, myself and my wife sometimes are like, what the fuck is going on, struggling to sort of get a handle on whether I've lost my mind or this is good. You switch between I'm clearly mad now and other times going, I can see so clearly, and it can be a bit scary sometimes, but I would prefer it where I am now to where I was then, looking back.
And in a job like that, because I'm just interested from the point of when you look from the outside on something like you've the kind of coveted thing on a breakfast show, is there a certain trajectory that you're pushing yourself towards when you're there? Because you're kind of like, I'm in this really good slot. I've got these two, it's a good team. We're all doing it. So is there this sort of, trajectory that you imagine for yourself that when it does stop, you're like, fuck.
When you want to, like I mentioned in the play, it's a lot about that, and it's like there's a line in the play where I'm like, I wanted to be the main man. I wanted to be fucking Ian Dempsey on the breakfast show forever, You want the people you're working for to be so appreciative of your brilliant work that they're just going to let you do that show forever and ever and just pay you the money and never question anything you do. And also then they'll want you to make TV shows, and then you'll be presenting your own chat show, and all those things that I don't even know if I wanted those things, or if I was I wasn't the right person. I clearly wasn't the right person. There was a reason people weren't coming to me to ask me to do a talk show, or there's a reason why the breakfast show finished up. I just wasn't in the right headspace to do any of the things that I wanted to do, or I was thinking the things I thought I wanted to do weren't even the things I wanted to do, So but you're sort of like, this is where I'm at. I need to make the most of this now, and this needs, and you feel very driven and very focused, but also you feel very disappointed all the time because you're not getting. Why is my phone ringing more? Like, I was busy. There was loads of stuff going on. There's plenty of things to be doing, but at the same time, I was looking at what I wasn't doing and what someone else was doing, and why are they getting asked to do that, and why I'm not. And why was I asked to do that and then never asked to do it again? And why, you're constantly just, as I said, like, striving for something. and just getting in your own way because what do you like?
And you're not even sure if you want it. That's so funny. Yeah, I do that with the certain roles, even actors. Like I would find myself going, like, yeah, I really want that thing, or I want to be in this thing. And I'm like, no, I don't. No, that's actually not me at all. Like, that's actually not what I want. But it's because you're programmed to, you're part of the system. So you're just kind of going, well, this is how the system works. And if I'm working in the system, I should be up there in the system, you know. And it's such a mindfuck because it mightn't be what you're about at all.
It is a mindfuck, and you're trying to, even if I can find my own particular niche, my own space, and I can do a bit of work in that space, and I can bring in enough money to pay the bills. That's all I need. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Whatever you imagine being Ryan Tubridy and presenting the Late Show is like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're 100% wrong. Whatever you imagine it's like to be Brad in Hollywood, you're 100%,
Yeah.
And in a strange, and maybe he wouldn't, but maybe in one way, Brad would like to be living here in Newbridge, in this house, having my life. So that's Brad Pitt I was talking about.
Yeah, of course. And why wouldn't he? I agreed wholeheartedly on that statement. I was like, of course Brad Pitt wants to live in Newbridge.
Yeah, so and he can. If he's watching this, he's very welcome to come and stay. He can
I'm sure your wife would be delighted.
Yeah. We would actually get divorced then.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's just the idea of success, or what you think it is, or what you should be doing, or what. I must have been so tired even from thinking about stuff like that alone.
Yeah.
Mind having to be up at half. And I see people. I see colleagues of mine and friends of mine. I'm just like, it's not something you can talk to people about until they come and ask you about it, because you'd like to just tell people to. Yeah, couldn't be okay.
Yeah, it's not that big. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. Don't worry. But when you're in it, it's like.
Of course, yeah.
It's your life.
It's easy for me to say. And then, I did get someone saying things like, well, this is just clearly a reaction because you lost your job and you're pissed off. And, so.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing is.
Actually, I do want to ask you, when you find out it's ending, something like that, were you able to stay, I don't want to say calm, what's the word where you're not civil, that's the wrong word too. Were you able to remain kind of like logical about it, or is there times when you're going in going, oh, fuck you now, you have to go in and, because there's a time between the show ending and there's the time between you finding out the show is ending and the show ending. Are you able to do that with grace and dignity? Were you able to do that? Or is that kind of also where the therapy came in, where you were like, I'm not dealing with this well?
I think that at that time I probably thought the breakfast show is ending, but there's probably other stuff I could do, or I'd probably get another show, or I'd probably just or maybe Radio 1 will give me a gig, or so there's a period there where you're kind of a little bit in denial, so it's absolutely fine. And actually, sometimes when something's coming to an end, there's a relief as well. So you're like, okay, this is, I don't know why this is good, but this feels good. So you enjoy the last sort of, I never really got angry as such I did find it difficult then after a while to go in every weekend and do the weekend show, because it was just like, well, I don't even know I'm doing this. I couldn't. It's like you asking what your purpose is in a role. I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. I didn't know. I couldn't find a reason to do that other than for the money.
Yeah.
And that was a good enough reason.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but after a while it just wears thin.
Yeah.
So I went through all the emotions. The grief, the anger, the happiness, the sadness, the weird cackling. It just, I think I managed to keep it all together on the surface, and I did a lot of sort of, walking around, RT smiling at people, because, hey, I'm good.
Don't worry about me. I'm coping fine.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that, and just, saying to people that it was fine and it's the right thing, which it was, and it was fine. It was the right thing, but Jesus, it hurt.
Yeah, because it needs to. you know, logically with anything like that, you know, logically that that's okay, but it needs to land internally into your soul. And I always feel really bad when or like when people do kind of have to move on or whatever, and you see they're like really thrilled and we've had a great whatever and blah, 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 and I'm always going, oh, I feel bad, because I feel like if you come back in 6 months when it's landed with the person, they probably can say something that's landed with it. Like, you know, I don't want to say something truthful, but like something that actually really rings true from their core, where they have the perspective and they're able to go, no, that's absolutely, and it's led me on to this and I'm so grateful, you know. Whereas at the time I always feel like it's just a thing that someone's like, just put something in writing there for fuck's sake.
Yeah, right. Anything.
Yeah, just say something.
but yeah, and I think that was really nice that 2 days ago when I said thanks to FM and thanks to everybody, I genuinely meant it, because I'd gone, you know, I'd come full circle, and I was like, you know, that was great, and I really genuinely felt gratitude for what I'd gotten and the opportunity I had and things I experienced. So it was kind of nice the way it all ended up. Like even as I'm saying that sentence now, I'm totally freaked out and scared, but I'm hoping everything will be all right, you know.
Oh, I actually have no doubt. I think it will. So if my opinion is anything valuable to you at all,
I'm looking for reassurance from anybody. I'll take it from anywhere. But yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I think actually, I do want to actually have a chat to you about your social media, but I do. But I think as well, I think if you're coming from such a genuine place and you're coming from a place of artistry and just wanting to be creative, I do think things have a weird way of falling into place. Like I've just even noticed it throughout my own career and leaps I took. You know, there was one time years ago in London where I basically went, I'm not temping anymore. I don't care what commercials I have to do, I'll do anything, but I'm not temping anymore in offices. And because I was just that straight about it, and I was in the right place to do it and the right place to feel it, and yeah, I felt like a little chain of events started happening, you know, like, and something that you don't think is anything, like starting to write, lead somewhere else. And it does. I do genuinely think that if you're coming from a good place.
I think if you're in a good place to be ready and you're ready for it and you're open to seeing what's out there, it is a good time. And yeah, as I said, like you never know for sure anyway. Like, I mean, if you're something can get cancelled, or something that you think you got, or a role you got can just, you know, they can say, sorry, we're not doing that anymore, or the money's gone, or, you know, someone's disappeared and we don't know where he is, or any of that kind of stuff can happen. So nothing was a sure thing anyway. So I might as well be doing this not sure thing as doing something that I wasn't particularly enjoying as a sure thing, you know, because there's no such thing as a sure thing, you know.
So true. In terms of your social media, because you've been doing like little episodes, and well, you were doing little episodes of kind of Keith Talks and updates on your show, and it's I watched the Social Dilemma last night, so now I'm kind of all social media. But have you been finding actually that it's been a kind of creative space for you, or a little outlet, or has it been a safe, positive space, or has it been something that's become sometimes I find it to be, it's a nice little safe kind of positive space if I keep it that way. But then do you go into the darkness of being like followers, insights, you know, are people watching? Am I just doing this into fucking oblivion? Because I feel like that sometimes. So I'm just wondering, is it a space that you feel is a bit of positivity, and that even if it reaches a couple of people, you're happy out?
It's an interesting thing, because when I finished the breakfast show and I started with therapy and being a bit more honest with people and being a bit more vulnerable, I would have had a certain amount of followers, and I could see them dropping. I could see my followers dropping off. The more honest I got, you know, people were, I was like, oh, fuck, oh, Jesus, oh, shit, oh, no. It was always like panic. But I said, no, this is, so almost like I lost a few followers, then I'd gain a few followers, but I just kept, you know, I just decided this is what I do now, and this is who I am. So in fairness to people following me, they were probably like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, this is not who I followed. Yeah. So I kind of swapped out a load of people and then swapped in a load of people, and now my followers are steadily going up, and I do see it as a means to an end, and I do sometimes get gigs out of it. I do sometimes get paid to promote stuff on it. So it's important for me to have that and to keep that going, because that could be the difference in 1 month of allowing me to do what I'm doing or not, So it's an important tool. And I said it to my therapist at one point. I was going, like, what about social media? Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the problem. And he was like, well, why would that be a problem? I said, because it's driving me mad. And he said, why are you driving? So I said, oh, I'm just going to maybe I should just cancel my accounts and just not look at, get rid of a phone and get an old Nokia. And he was like, well, why can't you just look at it every now and then? Or, if you think of an idea, do it. And why don't let the phone own you. It's the other way around. And so it kind of changed my thing. He said, I said, well, if I'm trying to write and the phone is there, I keep checking. He said, well, write for 20 minutes and then check it. And then write for, it was just like just stupid stuff that someone's just saying to you, like, okay, yeah, all right. So I can just write for 20 minutes and then check my phone and then go back to writing for 20 minutes. Yeah. And like someone just explained and stuff to you that. And I was like, okay, right. So I like to use it to try things out. I like to use it if I have an idea about something I want to talk about. I like to use it to, and be honest and be vulnerable and be whatever. And I'd say for anybody following me, they've probably like seen some mad, crazy man on a trip in the last year. But I do enjoy it, and I find it can be helpful with ideas. And I'll do I've started to do little sketches or whatever. Some I've put up and some I haven't. But I like it. And I think I've come full circle with it. And I think that, there is moments where you're like, oh shit, people don't like that. So you can, and I wouldn't look at it, if I was saying something, I was being honest about something, and I really felt like this is a moment for me and I want to share it, that's fine. I'm not really worried about people liking that. But if I do something that I think, like I've been doing these sketches and making these cards, and, if I do something that someone doesn't like, I'm not going to get that particular card. So I've been drawing these silly cards, and I'm hoping to get them printed up. So I'll put them all up on Instagram, and I'm able to look back and see how many people liked that one, how many people shared it, whatever. Okay, that one's I'm printing that one. So it can make an informed decision. Yes. I know I'm going to sell a few of these if I get them printed. And that's simple. That's straightforward. So, it's how you use it, and don't let it use you. That would be my... And also, I'm on TikTok, and I'm finding, I think if you're in the right space, on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, if you're in the right space, and everybody has to remember that they design you design your own Instagram and Twitter, and you are the person who decided to follow who you follow. So if you don't like what you're seeing, just follow different people, unfollow the people you're seeing. It's if you don't like this, people say, I hate Twitter these days.
Yeah, stop following those people.
But you designed it. You can just change it. I don't think people are aware of that. So on TikTok, even I find myself in these spaces where people talk about their energy and their aura and their and spirituality, and I love that. And I get little tips from people about music to listen to, and what hurts is good for healing. And I wouldn't really talk to people about any of that kind of stuff, but I like it, and I enjoy listening to other people talk about not necessarily philosophy, but their ideas on how to live a more fulfilled life, I suppose.
Yes.
So I like finding those spaces on Instagram, and people like Mel Robbins on Instagram, or people on TikTok talking about doing ayahuasca or something. I'm just like, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, my YouTube, the way it sends you
recommendations.
Yeah. So my YouTube is basically half like anything self-help, meditations, and Sesame Street for my child.
Okay. What you need is Ernie and Bert doing self-help.
Yes.
Ernie and Bert meditations, or Grover.
Yeah.
Meditation with Grover,
Oh my God, brilliant! Oh God, So I'm kind of coming to my final question, which I kind of ask everybody, but everyone has. I love this question because everyone has kind of the same answer, but they say it in a different way. So I always love seeing how people say it. It's quite open-ended, but just what does creativity mean to you?
Oh, what does creativity mean to me? It's a very, very big question.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't let you off easy. The last
No.
one, nice and big.
I suppose I think it's, I haven't really thought about it. Creativity is what I think when I think of other people's creativity. I think of them expressing themselves in a way that is honest and genuine, and other people can tap into something, can see something of themselves in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, it's like I'm only starting to come to terms with even talking about myself being creative. But it's an honest expression of something that you feel you've delivered in a way that might be appealing and interesting to other people. And I think it can be very, there's a reason we've always sang, and there's a reason we've always danced, there's a reason why we've always painted, there's a reason why we've done these things, because it gives people hope and life, and it helps people understand that they're not on their own. You know, and so if I do my play, it might speak to 50 people who go, that's what's happening to me, or that's what happened. I get it. I get what you're saying. I feel the same. And I think other people would get that from a painting, other people would get that from film, or from, you know, and I think it's just creativity is just, you know, one person letting someone else know they're not on their own, you know.
Yes. Yeah. It's so true. And in this weird time, I think that's what's really hit people. You know, that because if creativity is something where you feel less alone, and not when we're not being given the opportunity to get our hands on that as frequently, that's why our mental health can suffer throughout a time like this, because you're going, no, the thing that I get where I see myself reflected in other people and I feel less alone, I can't get my hands on right now.
Yeah. I need me medicine.
Yeah. It's total soul food.
I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And thanks for coming on, and thanks for the chat. And you're actually the first fella of season 2 that we've had on. So, and what a fella to start with. I'm thrilled because I just think I love seeing the journey you've been on. I think. And I love seeing somebody at that kind of point of zero, as in like there's nothing happening, but as in like you've allowed yourself to take the leap of faith. And I'm dying to see what happens, all the good things.
I know. I don't know. It is. It's like, don't worry, nothing will happen. I'll still be here in a year's time talking about it. Talking about being scared, you know.
Yeah. Oh well, I thank you so much, and I'm dying to see your play, and I just think. Yeah, and it's just lovely to see someone's creativity have just been kind of cracked open and burst open, and a whole experience just ahead of you. And I'm delighted for you, and you're great. And thank you so much for being so open. And let me ask all them questions, because there's some questions that I feel like some people would be like, no, thank you. No comment.
It's always good to talk and have an honest chat. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Keith. And
best of luck with I hope the acting world gets back to.
I'm going back next week to film.
Oh, brilliant.
But after that now, I'll be the same. After that, I have no idea what's going to happen after that. I have to finish the filming, and then once that's done, I'm in ground zero as well.
But in a way, in the world of acting, that's always been the way it's been. You know, I know it's slightly different now, but you're always, I'd imagine, once one job finishes, you're thinking, I'm never going to work again.
Basically, yeah. So basically, that's what all those self-help videos on my YouTube are. Thank you so much, Keith. It's been
no problem at all.
Thanks
for having me on, Em.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
So there you have it, Keith Walsh. What a lovely, lovely guy. So genuine, so real, so honest, and so willing to be open and talk about anything really. There was no question over anything I wanted to talk about. So he was just great, and what a time to meet somebody when they're at such a crossroads, at this wonderful springboard into their own creativity, and having put the work in. Like, he's put the work into his mental health. He's gotten himself grounded and centered for this new beginning really that he's starting. I can't wait to see his show. I can't wait to see what it's all about. And I love the real takeaway that's still in my mind now from it is, creating something without expectation, and how much that can free you up. So thank you, Keith. I can't wait to see what you do next. And wherever your creative journey leads you, I know it's going to be something that's real, genuine, and something that we see ourselves reflected in. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't be shy. Please share it with anyone you like. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify as well. So share the love, and hopefully someone will get something from this. And until next time, guys, have a great day.